Hey guys, Jordan with the Young Turks and TYT Politics. I'm here outside Wells Fargo corporate office in New York City. I'm here with the great Emma Vigeland. Hold on.
Water is life.
There's Emma. Let us know if you can hear us. Trying out the fancy chords here. And as you'd see, there's a couple dozen, I'd say a couple dozen water protectors. And Josh Fox in the house. There he is. And they're singing. They got signs. Water is life. Mini Wachoni. A lot of familiar faces from Standing Rock are down here now. Josh, say hello to the crowd.
Hey, how is everybody doing in the Jordan Sheridan TYT audience?
They're doing better.
It's a beautiful day here in front of Wells Fargo. We encourage you to come down and join us. Right near Grand Central Station. You can see the Chrysler Building right here in front of us. We're in Midtown, New York City to protest the, obviously, the Dakota Access Pipeline. And as usual, it's a spirited crowd.
Josh, I want to get across the latest news. A lot of people don't realize, I think, 200 miles away from Cannonball, 176,000 gallons were spilled in a creek. Of course, the oligarchs are silent on the matter. No big deal here. So obviously, what you've been saying, what I've been saying, is happening all around us. The news was late to this, and then we have Rick Perry as Energy Secretary, who currently is a board member of Energy Transfer Partners. What are your thoughts on both?
It's a total nightmare. I mean, obviously, that's our worst possible thing to happen, have a huge spill like that into a creek. It's an unbelievable tragedy that because once those water systems are damaged, it takes decades for them to come back. If the spill is underground, it may never be able to be remediated. And this is the kind of thing that's happening constantly. We've had 3,300 major pipeline spills in the United States between 2010 and 2015. Ecosystems ruined, watersheds ruined, beaches ruined, towns ruined, the whole town of Mayflower, Arkansas had to be evacuated. The beaches of Santa Barbara with an oil spill. You're talking about the Yellowstone River, the Kalamazoo River spill was several years ago, still hasn't been fixed. This is awful, obviously. And then, of course, the cabal of kleptocrat, truly vile people that Donald Trump is picking for his cabinet is extraordinarily upsetting. From Rick Perry to Jeff Sessions, and then, of course, the monster of them all, Rex Tillerson, who is a man, look, it doesn't take a lot to add this up. I used to get accused as being a fractivist in New York State of getting money from the Russians. They used to say, "Oh, you're against the American oil industry. You must be being paid by the Russians." Well, I have news for everybody. Look up Rex Tillerson and Vladimir Putin online. Look at all the pictures, champagne toasts in the Kremlin. Putin and Tillerson were trying, ExxonMobil and Russia were trying to get together a deal to drill the Arctic. Obama stopped it. Now he's being nominated to be our Secretary of State. This has to be blocked. This absolutely has to be blocked. The future of the planet is on the line.
And Exxon, of course, tried to whitewash findings on climate change. We know about that. And also Rick Perry, obviously governor of Texas, big oil and gas. Guess who his number 2 donor is in his career? Kelsey Warren of Energy Transfer Partners.
Kelsey Warren of Energy Transfer Partners also offered to reimburse the North Dakota Police Department for their expenses. That's fascism, plain and simple. When you have a police department that's completely out of control, right, calling peaceful protectors rioters. We were not rioters. We were peaceful. They were peaceful, 100%. Okay, then he's got that police force shooting bullets, rubber bullets, tear gas grenades, concussion grenades, water cannons in 20-degree temperatures. This amounts to lethal force. Okay, and then you have a billionaire who's running a pipeline through sacred ground, offering to pay that police department to do his dirty work for him. This cannot be happening in the United States of America. We have to stand up, and we have to do that quickly, and we have to do it strongly. That's what we're doing here. I'm afraid I'm interrupting the speech, so maybe you want to cover that, but thanks, Jordan.
I'll get back to you. Cool. So let's try to cover the speech here.
Teach me.
That's what this whole movement is based on. It's based on our way of life. We teach this to our children. And all it is about education, people. That's all it is. And I don't blame anybody. anybody for being disconnected. I don't blame for people here that are just walking by their day-to-day lives. But what they don't understand is there's going to be a time in their life where they're going to understand and how important water is going to be to them. They're going to understand it at some point because it's a reality today. It's a reality that we have to face. And we have to understand what is important and what we need to preserve and what we have left. And that's something that our people back home, the Ochete Shikoya 7 Council of Fires, has always been about. It's preserving our original treaty territory lands that was given to our people by this federal government. It was given to our people through a peace treaty, which is today not just our tribe, but other tribes across this country. The government decides to break anytime they want. They always want to take when they need to take. And what today presents is enough is enough now. We have to stand up and understand what's important. It's not for us. Why we're fighting today. It's for the unborn. It's for the people that are not here yet. It's for them to understand the meaning of life. What is life? Water is life. That's what it is. That's what it is. 90% of our bodies contain water. We need water. I've traveled across the country. I've did a lot of speakings, and I was down in the heart of oil territory in Texas at Southern Methodist University, and I did a panel down there with NoDAPL consultants, and also with people that are specialized in the water, myself, archaeologists, and I challenged those DAPL people. I said, through our ceremony, our way of life, why we know water is so important, because through our ceremony, we go 4 days without water or food. And I guarantee you, if anybody sitting around here knows how that feels, through our ceremonies, when we sacrifice, we always say we have to sacrifice to give, to receive. We have to sacrifice for the betterment. And that's what we're seeing today. But to understand and know how important it is to live without something like this, it is important because I challenge those DAPL people to live without water for 4 days. And I want to see how they like it. They can handle that. And I guarantee you they can, because they sat there and didn't have a single thing to say when I told them that. This battle today, yes, it is about fossil fuels and moving in an elected official for the Cannibal community. There's protocols. I just want to share with you what we mean by protocols. 130 years ago,
Like headphones.
The Battle of the Little Bighorn. We were the only nation to ever defeat the U.S. government in battle over 130 years ago. We used protocols in our ways of life, which we still carry forward today, guided by the Creator to tell us how to defeat such overwhelmingly odds against our people. And today, once again, 130 years later, we bring those same protocols to this project, the Black Snake, which is trying to go a half-mile north of my community in Cannonball, which I represent. And those protocols, we had ceremony. And our ceremony told us that if we move forward with peace in prayer, that we'll win. So moving forward, any which way you go, whether if you're not in Standing Rock or if you're doing things here in New York City, move forward in that manner. Move forward with peace and prayer, because that was told to us by the Creator if we want to win this battle. And that's the message that I come here today to tell you, is that I'd like to thank you all for coming. Thank you all for all the support from my Tuahe, my family to your family, and for the unborn. That's why we're here. We're here for the unborn. Like I said, I just want to re-emphasize on it. When I see a lot of people walking here, you got to remember that it's not their fault that so much people are disconnected from what the true meaning of life really is, because they get so disconnected with all the distractions of what life has to offer. But when you come to places like Standing Rock, you come to places that are in high poverty, and you think, geez, this is kind of a horrible place, but it's truly not. The community I come from, and the county is the 6th poorest county in the country. But I guarantee you those are some of the most happiest people in the world. Because it's not about money to us. It's about our land. It's about our water. It's about our resources. That's what's important to our people, and that's the message we pass down to our young ones. It's not about how much money you have. It's about preserving what we have left and what we have for the future. Our great chief Sitting Bull always used this quote. He said, let's put our minds together to see what life we can make for our children. And if you think about that today, what type of life are we leaving for our children today? Think about it. What are we leaving for them? That's why it's so important that we need to stand together now. All races, because this is an all-race humanity issue around the world. We're seeing forests being demolished daily by the 1% corporations of this world. And now the 99% needs to stand up and fight for what's right and preserve what we have left in this country, because there's going to be a time, if we don't, moving forward in the next 10 years, we're going to have to pay $10 to $15 for a bottle of water, whether we know that or not. So that's the message that I come to you to tell you today is thank you coming from the Cannonball community. Thank you coming from the water protectors back home that are definitely facing blizzard conditions, 0 below conditions out there, to try to protect and preserve what's right. And that's what this whole thing is about. It's not about money, it's about what's right. It's about what's right moving forward. And water is life. And I want to let everybody know that it is important. And I think now moving forward, if we keep moving forward together, regardless of race, we're going to start to make a difference in this country and this world. And I start to see that because we had so much support from all over the world of people doing stuff like this in Australia, Germany, Austria, New Zealand, all over the world. They're understanding the meaning of life, and now it's the time to stand up and preserve what we have left for future generations to come. Thank you again. Thank you for coming. Thank you for supporting Standing Rock. And like I said, for mine, Sunday, yours, thank you so much.
Can I talk to you for a second? Young Turks.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for Cody Two Bears for coming as a representative of Standing Rock to bring that movement here. And we are here, to bring the Standing Rock movement to remember that Standing Rock isn't just a place.
So, Cody Two Bears, you just spoke very eloquently. Tell me, I find it interesting that we're in New York City, where I've lived here before. Everybody's kind of in their own little world. They're probably, as they cross here, wondering who are these hooligans blocking me from getting to lunch or work. What should people know who are kind of been blind and unaware to what's going on? What should they know?
Basically, like I said, it's not necessarily about Standing Rock. This is just about our environment. It's about our water and what we're doing to our environment today. What are we leaving here for our future generations? And that's what's so important about this movement here in Standing Rock. It's easy to relate to. It's easy to understand. It's easy to be a part of, because it is about water, and we need water to live. So that's what's so important. And as I sit here, and this is my first time in New York, but as I sit here and I see people walking across, not totally understanding the meaning of life and the meaning of water, there's going to be a time in their life, in their family's life, where they're going to absolutely have to understand that it is a need at some point. And then I think the movement of Standing Rock has awakened the world to really, really rise up and to fight against these 1%ers of the world that are tearing down our country, tearing down our world, and making money for profit. In this country, I've always said that, we could damage the land, and we'll never get prosecuted for it because it's for profit. But if we were to damage physical property, we'd get thrown in jail for it. So what's the difference between of damaging our land to damaging property? To me, it is no different. But to them, it's okay because it's for profit.
And we're in front of Wells Fargo corporate headquarters. Obviously, Wells Fargo is one of many banks that are invested in this. What does it say to you in America right now? There's banks like Wells Fargo, Bank of America, there's, I think, 20 of them, that are still invested in a company that has said they're going to break the law, they're going to drill without permits, has tried to pay off private police, militarized police, offered to pay their funds, and also is investing in a company that has private mercenaries who have unleashed dogs on human beings. What does it say that the banks that are supposed to be the helping hand to small, middle-class America are investing in this.
So I think like I said, I don't think the banks truly understand the magnitude of what's happening on Standing Rock. Now finally we had mainstream media out there the last 2-3 weeks where we had so much media that's passing the message on of the genocides and the atrocities that's happened to Native people in history, that it's so important that to people to understand that it's happening yet here today, that people don't really understand and know that it's what's going on. So people like Wells Fargo and the 30+ banks that are funding this project need to understand that they are damaging sacred sites. These projects that are funding, they are contaminating our water. There was just a pipeline break 150 miles away from where we come from in Standing Rock and in Cannonball. So the pipeline spilt over 176,000 gallons into a river 150 miles away from my home. So it is happening today. I think we need to create more awareness to understand that pipelines and fossil fuels are coming to an end, that we need to move forward in a new sustainable green energy in our communities across this country. And if this government's not going to do it in the next 4 years, then we're going to do it in Native country and show this country how to live again.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Is that what you want? Do you want to be contributing to a militarized police force in North Dakota? Do you want to be contributing to a militarized police force in New York State? No. You want to back it up? That's all you want? You don't want to keep your money in the mattress? You don't want to keep your money in the safety deposit box in your closet somewhere? You want a bank account. You don't want bombs. You don't want police brutality. You don't want blood. You don't want those things. That's right, isn't that right? So don't put your money in those banks. Take your money out of those banks. That's what we're doing here today. We don't want to ride shotgun on a stagecoach, Wells Fargo. Hell no. That's not why we're here. We are here to have a planet to live on, not to finance your destruction. Because every single person walking down this street has to live, has to have money, has to have a job. But when you realize that all of those major banks are invested in the fossil fuel projects that are destroying our future, that are destroying our ability to live on this planet, you realize that whole system is corrupt. And when capitalism and racism come together, like my friends from Ferguson who are at Standing Rock said, when capitalism and racism come together, they will try to defeat justice. They will try to defeat us. They will try to defeat the Constitution and the Bill of Rights that we stand for. This country was founded on two very, very different principles. George Washington went to the Iroquois Nation and learned about democracy. That's who taught George Washington about democracy, the indigenous people of this nation. That's right. So equal rights, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, that's what we are founded on. But this country was also founded on genocide, because George Washington would go to other tribes and destroy them and kill them and brutalize them. We have that conflict happening here today. Right in front of us, right in front of this bank. That's the Constitution. You guys are not just protecting the water, you are protecting the Bill of Rights. What happens to that water happens to our bodies. What happens at Standing Rock happens to our Constitution. That is the truth. And inside that bank right there, Wells Fargo, those are the descendants, ideologically and genealogically, of General Custer, of Manifest Destiny, of the genocide. We are here to stop that today. So don't make any mistake. If you have money in those banks, you don't have money. If you have a deposit account, a savings account, a CD, a money market, you don't have money in there. You have war. You have militarization. You have the destruction of the climate and the water and the planet. Take it out. That's why we're here. Take your money out. Defund the Dakota Access Pipeline. Defund the monsters who would destroy our communities, our brotherhood, our democracy, our environment, and our planet for their profit. Thank you very much. So I want to introduce to you a man who I've known for many years. A man who's been on the front lines New York City, standing for truth, justice.
If you're just coming to this now, we're in front of Wells Fargo corporate office. We're on 42nd and the corner of 3rd Avenue. So if you're in New York City and you want to play hooky from work or wherever, we're at Wells Fargo corporate office, 42nd and 3rd. You got, I'd say, probably about 100 people out here, maybe a little bit more. Josh Fox is here, folks from Standing Rock, Native American water protectors, non-native water protectors are here, and they're all here trying to force banks like Wells Fargo and other banks, shaming them into divesting their investments in the Dakota Access Pipeline, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, JP Morgan. I mean, there's, I think, 17 big banks that are invested one way or the other in Dakota Access Pipeline. So there's peaceful protests going on today at Wells Fargo as well as Citibank. And it's really funny. I just got back from Standing Rock yesterday, and a lot of the faces I've been seeing for the last few weeks are out here in New York City. So it's good to see people. And what's interesting here also, just to set the scene, we're on one of the busiest blocks in New York City. We're right in front of Grand Central Station in New York City, very big transportation hub. A lot of tourists come here, a lot of shops, restaurants, bars right around here. So we're kind of blocking the sidewalk here. So you see New Yorkers who are usually kind of, you know, a little caught in their own world. They call it the hustle bustle area. Everybody's hustling and bustling. They're trying to get around us on the corner here, and you know, they're in their own little lives, so they don't really know what this is about. So it's interesting because this goes along with a lot of more conservatives, Republicans, corporate Democrats, who also don't know what's going on in terms of the negative effects of fossil fuels and pipelines to our environment, to our water source, all of that. So you're going to see protests like this all over the place throughout the country in the next few weeks. December is a month of action against the Dakota Access Pipeline. You could go to actionnetwork.org. That's actionnetwork.org to find out more information about where there's actions going on in your community. The latest news, as I reported yesterday, Donald Trump is appointing former Texas Governor Rick Perry to be his energy secretary. Besides Rick Perry being a moron, it's very troubling because Rick Perry is currently, I say currently, a board member of Energy Transfer Partners, the parent company for Dakota Access Pipeline. Last year, he made $107,000 in cash as a board member and $250,000 in stock options. So this is a gentleman who is definitely for the Dakota Access Pipeline, and he is going to be in charge of the energy department. So actions like this, actions against the banks, actions against anybody invested in this are very important, particularly when you have someone like Rick Perry running the energy department. The defund-DAPL, hashtag defund-DAPL movement has been going on for weeks now. There's a social media campaign. There's all sorts of things. I actually have the guy here who was instrumental in setting it up. Hold on. So we spoke at Standing Rock. Name again?
Adam.
So Adam, you kind of spearheaded a lot of this defund-DAPL. Now it's manifesting on sidewalks in the biggest city in the world. Got a good crowd out here. Talk to me about what you guys are trying to get across here, because we are literally in the land of Oz, where people are kind of in their own little worlds in a place like New York City. Some of them might not even know what Dakota Access Pipeline is.
You know, it's really simple. We started a campaign at Standing Rock in a freezing tent about 3 weeks ago, and today we stand in the financial capital of the world, having collectively, with your help, divested over $20 million. I believe we're at $21 million from the Dakota Access Pipeline. You know, the banks that the common American person banks with are funding this pipeline and are funding things like this around the world. So what we're asking is, if you have a bank account with one of these banks, if you have a bank account with Wells Fargo, if you have a bank account with Citibank, Chase Bank, PNC, you know, Bank of America. What we're asking is in an act of solidarity for a more beautiful planet, you know, for a sustainable future. We're asking you to close down your accounts. And we have a simple method, you know, that a lot of people have used. It's social and fun, and it's spreading across the world. And we are the only thing that can stop this pipeline now. We are the ones that will stop it by pulling the plug of the funding. And that's what we're seeing around the world right now.
And tell people quickly where they could go to find out on Defund DAPL, how they, because you said it's social media component to it. People can hold up Defund DAPL signs in front of the bank. Talk to people how they do it.
Basically, it's really simple. You know, we're asking you to close down your account and do it in a public way. So the most simple way that people do that is they close their account, they might take a picture of themselves, and they post it on social media, and they hashtag Defund DAPL, and maybe write a statement about why you've done that and why you've chosen to stand with Standing Rock and why you've chosen to stand for a sustainable future. And you can find more information at www.defundapple.org or on our Facebook site, Defund DAPL.
And the new news, I want to get your thoughts, because obviously our government and our country, it's all about the money, Lebowski. You got Donald Trump appointing Rick Perry as Energy Secretary. Besides being an imbecile, that's my thought. This is someone who's literally on the board of Energy Transfer Partners, made $107,000 in cash last year, $250,000 in stock options, never seen a pipeline he doesn't like. His biggest donors in his whole entire political career are gas and oil. So obviously there's been a unified fight now, but talk to viewers about the fight upcoming, because that seems like a gentleman running the Energy Secretary, not particularly interested in water, land, native rights.
You know, it's really, as we're looking at Trump's cabinet and his appointees rolling out, it's really important that we're proactive right now and that we keep defunding with urgency and show, you know, that we won't, that it becomes a situation of what is lucrative. And what we're showing this administration is that it's no longer a good financial option to invest in pipelines and invest in things destroying our environment, because we will defund those things. So we need to come together right now urgently and keep divesting with a clear message that we demand clean, renewable, sustainable energy. And until you give us that, we're going to divest from your institutions. And when we speak the language of money, finally, we will be heard by this administration and by all administrations.
Do you have a suggestion? Obviously, you're not a banker, but a lot of people ask, all right, if I take my money out, where do I put it?
Well, when you take your money out, you know, right now through our site, we have a credit union finder. So you can type in your address and find a credit union in your area. And right now, you know, we think that the future of banking, we actually haven't arrived at those next level options that are fully, you know, branches in every major city, easy access, you know, and deposits, withdrawals, and that fund clean, sustainable energy. But when enough of us divest, we create a vacuum that entrepreneurs are going to occupy and see this as a financial entrepreneurial opportunity to invent this new form of banking institution. And with Defund DAPL, we're starting with this pipeline, but that's our vision, is through your help divesting, we are creating a space where these green entrepreneurial systems are going to come up, and we will have a new form of banking institution where planet and people matter above profit.
And lastly, where do I get that sexy looking fedora for my head?
You know, Dayton, Ohio, Brim, so.
This guy rocks a fedora. I've seen it many, many times. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. All right. Gotta keep it light sometimes. All right. Emma's gonna put down the camera for a second, tweet this link out. Okay. Yeah, tweet it out. Oh, you did? Cool. All right, so let's see what this guy's talking about here.
We got to stop this racism in our city. Continues to pretend that it's a great liberal capital. We have a job to do here. The way to do it, I think, is to let the earth come up in us. This is not playing Indian. This is being the earth.
And guys, don't forget, share this video, share it far and wide.
There's no question about bravery anymore. You're not brave, when you are the earth. You're evolving. You're living. You're the ecosystem yourself. It's not a question of ego. It's not a question of trying to, you know, be less nervous. You are the earth. Living the earth. You are alive.
So you just saw our little congregation here. Wonderful preacher man, and we got the devil next to me.
Yes.
Let's see this right here. Wells Fargo.
The devil. I felt compelled to come out as a devil. My name is Marty. I protest. I have a little protest group called Revolution is Sexy. And, just Wells Fargo is the main primary banking institution that's supporting Energy Transfer Partners, that's building the Dakota Access Pipeline. They also had that fiasco with the 5,000 employees, setting up the 2 million bogus customer accounts, bilking customers out of fees. And I just think it's my personal moral and civic duty to come out here and express my political beliefs. And hopefully this gets into the stratosphere and the universe, and people really start thinking about this. So that's why I'm here.
And let me ask you, 1 second. Let me ask you, in this country, you hear all these platitudes, we're the shining city on a hill, and make America great and stronger together, and blah, blah, blah. What does it say to you that a bank like Wells Fargo, Citibank, Bank of America, they're actively invested in a company that says we're going to break the law, we don't have permits, but we're going to drill anyway, that looks the other way when police are firing grenades, looks the other way when the actual company they're investing is trying to bribe the police force, saying we will pay for your... What does it say to you that our banks, which are, a long time ago supposed to be pillars of the community, are associated with this kind of company?
Well, I just feel like the real evil in the world is, corporations really put profits over people. And the fact that you have these corporations that are actively trying to really harm and physically injure and possibly murder people for peacefully protesting. I mean, it just says everything about these institutions. And but there's a real sort of real propaganda going on in the world, and I just feel like America and the rest of the the world has to wake up to really see what's going on. But the real evil is not the Muslims and the Mexicans coming over for a better life. The real evil is corporate America. So that.
And also, I think a lot of TYT viewers and just a lot of progressives in general kind of feel like, all right, yeah, we could protest, but the banks are too powerful. We tried Occupy, that dwindled. We ran Bernie, and look what we got. What do you say to people who think, I'm with you, but let's be real, we can't beat the banks?
Yeah. Well, I love what the investigative journalist Chris Hedges says, and he says that to really change things that you really have to have these sort of mass movements, and the mass movements don't have to be in power. They just have to create like a real public display of humiliation. And so I think that's what we're doing here. But also, the anthropologist Margaret Mead said, never underestimate a concerned group of citizens. It can be a small group, but never underestimate. Once you have an idea and you can get it out into the world, I mean, it's like you can't evict a really good idea. And, there's more, minorities, more black and brown people populating the earth on both sides. People don't want income inequality. I mean, these are ideas that once they get out, they're the right ideas. People want to be on the right side of history. So I'm optimistic, even though I know it's hard. But just keep up the good fight.
Thank you very much. Yep. I hope one day I look as good in a devil's costume. Hey-o. All right. Let's talk to some water protectors here. So you see signs there. So here's a great water protector, Doug, fresh out of Standing Rock, and you're actually from Australia.
I've been living in Australia for 30 years, but was born and raised in Yonkers, New York. Yeah.
You came from Standing Rock for a few months. You're in New York now. Talk about the difference, because I just got back last night, and it's like night and day when you're talking about North Dakota, water protectors, very conscious environment, at least among the water protectors. But here you see people kind of walking by, not doing anything bad, but they're kind of dense to what's going on.
Yep. I think this is the state of, clearly the state of New York and the state of the world right now, where we're all living kind of in that matrix dream state, where where we think that we're operating in a democracy when we're really operating in a corporatocracy. And if you take a tissue sample of anybody on the planet today, you're going to find between 200 and 300 toxic and hazardous chemicals that are in our biology that didn't exist there before the so-called free market started really kicking in 50, 60, 70 years ago. And I think that that's what this movement really brings to life. Like Reverend Billy was just pointing out, having the earth come up into us, and the prayer that is Standing Rock, the peaceful protection of water, air, and land, is a protection of our humanity, because that's where we come from. Born, once of a female human mother, but born initially of Earth, and all of our elements are of Earth. And so it's going to be a while to wake people up, I think. But maybe it'll be just like that. Maybe it'll just be like waking up from a dream where we all go, oh, right, that's what's happening here. So we really got to do what we have to do to bring ourselves out of that sleep state and into the moment.
Practically speaking, you have Kelsey Warren from Energy Transfer Partners. He says such things as, "Oh, we're doing a state-of-the-art steel pipe. The chance of a spill very rare." Meanwhile, over 700,000 gallons released 150 miles away from Cannonball just a few days ago.
Yep. So when I saw that, I thought, right, that's a much smaller pipeline. That has a maximum capacity of 1,000 barrels a day. The NoDAPL pipeline has a maximum capacity of over 570,000 barrels a day. So take that pipeline spill, which just ended up being a fairly massive spill, and it's gone into a frozen creek, and they don't know how much is under the ice, and multiply that by 570, and you're going to end up with a potentially massive spill into the Missouri River on the tune of 100 million gallons of oil. So it's not that pipelines won't spill. It's not that the NoDAPL won't spill. All pipelines leak. They sometimes burst and sometimes explode. And so, we just can't allow that to happen. This is just too much of a risk for 18 million people downstream from the Dakota Access Pipeline, where it crosses the Missouri, and it crosses 200 other bodies of water on its long trip all the way down to Illinois, where it's going to get processed and then shipped out through the Gulf of Mexico to other places. So this is not even domestic energy security. Take that money, invest it in renewables. That's real energy security. That's the future. This is a dead past. It's dinosaur fuel. It's fossil fuel. Don't be a fossil fool. Stop driving to extinction. Wake up, humanity. Come on. We can do it. We got this.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it.
We don't want you alone. Take your broke back home. Hey, slow CEO. Oh, we don't want you alone. Take your broke back home. Hey, Tim Sloan, CEO. Oh, we don't want you alone. Take your broke back home. Hey, Tim Sloan, CEO. Oh, we don't want you alone. Take your. That's what goes. Wells Fargo, embargo. Wells Fargo, embargo. Wells Fargo, embargo. Oh, Wells Fargo, embargo. Yeah, hey, Tim Sloan, CEO. Oh, we don't want you alone. Take your broke back home. Hey, Tim Sloan, CEO. Oh, we don't want you alone. Take your broke back home. Hey, Tim Sloan, CEO. Oh, we don't want you alone. Take your broke back home. Hey, Tim Sloan, CEO. We don't want you alone. Take your broke back home. Fargo, embargo. Wells Fargo, embargo. Wells Fargo, embargo. Wells Fargo, embargo. Hey, Tim Sloan, CEO. We don't want you alone. Take your broke back home. Hey, Tim Sloan, CEO. We don't want you alone. Take your broke back home. Wells Fargo.
So you got a little freestyle rap going on. It's pretty good. Still have water protectors here, clearing out a little bit, but let's see what we got here. Okay. And Josh Fox's impassioned speech. You know what's interesting to me? While you were talking, we're in New York City, so obviously everybody lives in their own little world. They're like, who are these hooligans on the side of the street? And they have no idea what's going on in terms of pipelines, the ones that just burst, the water, police brutality. You live in Brooklyn. What do you think about the cognitive dissonance? Do you think more people are being awoken to this?
Well, I think that we have to start to do a better job of tying these things together. I mean, we're like blocks from Trump Tower. Do you know what I mean? But I think the North Dakota the Dakota Access Pipeline protests are having a huge impact. But I think that the way our media is structured right now is you have your audience, I have my audience, we have a bubble on our Facebook, we have a bubble on Google, and it's important to be out on the street right here. And they're handing out flyers, people are talking. I'm watching people go, oh, what's happening here? They want to be educated. I mean, we're in crisis mode in the United States right now. We have a government that's incoming that is a threat to democracy itself. We have a government that's incoming that says they're going to take the reservations back and turn them into oil and gas zones. This is going to create havoc across this nation. I mean, I really feel like the incoming Trump people are this crazy dystopian band of super destructos that are coming out of like the woodwork. I mean, all of these discredited, crazy people. Rick Perry. I mean, these people couldn't get 1% of the vote, and now they're going to be in charge of the department. He said he wanted to dismantle the Department of Energy. Now he's going to be in charge of the Department of Energy. Rex Tillerson sued to stop a fracking water tower in his own backyard. This man didn't want fracking in his own backyard, and he's promoting fracking all across the entire world. I mean, the level of hypocrisy.
The EPA administrator, big fossil fuel guy, doesn't believe in climate change.
The administrator is suing the EPA right now. So, look, the only way we win is we fight back and we're in the streets. But obviously, we have to continue to get the message out, and that's why the work that you do is so important. But we need also media, right? We need to be able to breach that gap of our own personal media channels. That's going to be important. I don't know how to do it, but here's what I have to say. If you are listening to this broadcast, you must take your money out of those major banks if you have your money in a major bank. If you have your money in Chase, in TD, in Wells Fargo, in Citibank, you have to take your money out because you don't have money in your bank account. You've got blood and you've got bullets and you've got grenades and you've got police brutality. That is a form of violence. You don't want to be committing an act of violence when you use the ATM machine. And what I also have to tell you is this. Make sure that you tell 5 friends to do the same. You tell 5 friends that they don't have a bank account. They have oil spilling into the Yellowstone River, into the Kalamazoo River. They have an oil spill. You know, that's what your bank account is. Tell your friends that's the way we do this, person to person, neighbor talking to neighbor. I believe that's stronger than any corporate influence, and that's what we're going to keep doing.
The legend, Josh Fox. It's like butter coming out of his mouth. Love him. All right. Talk for a minute.
All right, hey guys. So I'm back. Me and Jordan reunited. We're trying to find someone to talk to us. I don't know if you can see me. So, oh, we got someone? Yeah? Yep. All right.
I'm back. We're got too many wires going on. So remind me of your name. I forget.
Roberto Barrero.
So, Roberto, we spoke in Standing Rock. You were doing some work in consultation with the UN there. You saw what was going on there. We're in a much different world here in New York City. From what happened there, talk to me about kind of the evolution. Obviously, people felt a small victory when the permit was denied. But now you have things like, Rick Perry being named Energy Secretary. He's on the board. Trump is putting all these climate change deniers in his cabinet, senior advisors, and of course, what I see as war crimes perpetrated against innocent, unarmed people. I mean, there's no Morton County Police in jail that I know of.
Yeah, it's been an incredible series of events since last we saw each other at Standing Rock. But I really have to commend the power of the people, all right? At every level. I mean, you had the frontline defenders who who are just incredible and inspiring for so many. And I think we could see that by the widespread support around the world for Standing Rock, for the people of Standing Rock, and for a worldwide slogan now, water is life. Right? But the other thing is that those weren't the only fronts that things were happening. You know, you had a lot of elders there. One of the speakers that were here today in New York spoke about the spiritual protocols. So you had spiritual people working on different levels, Lakota people. I went out with a delegation with Chief Orville Looking Horse to go see the original treaties, the 1868 and the 1851 treaties, to say prayers over those treaties, to sing about those treaties, and to remember the original intention of the indigenous peoples when they entered into those treaties. And so that kind of power, that kind of pressure on Capitol Hill, as well as what we did at the United Nations level, getting the UN to say, hey, there are violations going on here. The United States really needs to speak to these people, and there needs to be real meaningful consultation. And I think as a result of all those fronts coming together, you know, we achieved that small victory, as you mentioned earlier. But now we're coming into a next phase where the joining of business interest or corporation interests are coming together in a place that's supposed to be the bastion of human rights in the world, the so-called United States. And this is really disconcerting for many of us who work on not only local levels but international levels. You know, the U.S. has been engaged in an international process, in a treaty-making process on various levels in the climate change agreement, in human rights bodies, and now we see an administration coming into power that's anti those things, anti-human rights, anti-climate change. I was there in Marrakesh the morning after the election, and I mean, you could feel the attitude and the shift in spirits of everybody, other government officials, grassroots people, organizers. It was like the day the world's heart broke. That's how it was at the climate change meeting this year. But understanding that, yeah, okay, let's shake it off and come together, because the only way we're going to move forward at this point is to unify. And I think that's the message of Standing Rock, and that's why we're here today. We have to unify around this divesting movement and keep the pressure on, because at the end of the day, we can't eat money, right?
And as a Native American, I think most people, the biggest priority has been stopping this pipeline. And if the pipeline is stopped, it's not like oppression against Native Americans ceases to exist, right? I was just in Standing Rock for a little longer after the permit was denied, and I spoke with natives about the local economic issues, racism. How do we keep the focus on that? Because we know that, you know, once there's victory on a symbol, which is a pipeline, sometimes in human nature we lose focus on those other matters.
I think we really have to see all these things as interconnected. We can't separate environmental issues from the human rights issues. And I think we can see that where not only in Standing Rock, which has, that county is one of the poorest of the 6 in the U.S., so there's an obvious connection to the economics there, but everywhere where there's an economically depressed community, an impoverished community, even here in New York, they want to put fresh direct, a new trucking way right in the Bronx where we have the highest asthma rates, right? We have to unify these movements and see that they are interconnected. Just like we as Native people say, all things are connected and we are all relations, we mean that. And there's a reason for that. So we have to start looking at this movement like that. But we can't separate the environment from the indigenous people's rights issue. And that's another reason why we're here today, to remind people of that. You know, indigenous peoples can be seen as sort of like the canaries in the coal mine. We have treaties, we have rights, there's international agreements, international standards which recognize the rights of indigenous peoples, and right now states in collusion with multinational corporations are trying to erode those rights, and that's what we have to stand against and see that as connected to this movement here.
You also have reports that Donald Trump and his administration is talking about trying to privatize reservations around the country.
Yeah, and I think that that's an issue that they've been trying for many years, since the termination era of American Indian. But you know, I think American Indian people are a little more savvy today, and now we could see the allies, right? I don't think that people are going to go that quietly with that. So we're going to keep on fighting, and we're here. We're just glad to see people coming together, and we look forward to more of that. And remember that The same way people supported Standing Rock, they need to be supporting these other issues like the Spectra Pipeline, Pilgrim Pipeline here in New York, what's going on in Florida with the pipeline there that's going to affect the Miccosukee and the Seminole peoples, the Everglades. We have to get behind those issues as well because this is a multiple fronts that we're fighting.
Amen, brother. Which is a good segue. Reverend Billy, we need some inspiration here. A lot of bad things going on in the world. You were talking about when you were speaking up there. We're in New York City. A lot of people kind of are walking by in their own little bubble. Don't know what's going on with pipelines or their water or human rights abuses. Talk to me about your thoughts on are enough people awoken to this yet?
Standing Rock is a turning point in our local New York City activism. And you couldn't think of a more different ecosystem built environment than these 50-story high skyscrapers and the rolling grasslands of the Oahe and the Standing Rock Reservation. But going back and forth between the two places, our issues are the same and the solution is the same. The earth is alive. We are the earth. The earth is in us. The earth is rising up in us and expressing itself, defending itself against the death of our water and our soil and our animal species and our plants, which is also our death. We can't live without life. We have to be a part of the life around us. This is emboldening our activism because it moves us past the psychological problem of being brave or being afraid of going to prison, or it moves us into a spiritual place, much more similar to the civil rights movement, I would say. So
let me ask you, not that the Obama administration was, the champion of human rights, but Donald Trump's administration coming in, these folks he's putting in don't strike me as that concerned about water, human rights, sacred land. Obviously, you're not a politician, but how do a group of people, water protectors, natives, non-natives, fight against politicians who seem to be kind of part of the corporate oligarchy?
Well, your question assumes, and I don't blame you one bit, it assumes that leaders have that level of control and power. I think people are already resisting Donald Trump. And we know that someone like him, his power will be over. I feel his power ending already. And the Earth's power will not end. The Earth will be here when Trump ends. So let's get on the right side. It's not about choosing the Democrats, it's about choosing the Earth. Amen?
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah. What was the name of the wonderful, articulate man you just talked to? God, I wish I'll get it for you. Before you talk to me, I'll get it for you. That wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Hey, buddy. Yeah. Oh, here's hold on. We're getting wound up here. So we got my Bernie bro friend over here. I interviewed him in Standing Rock. Come over here. So remind viewers what your name is.
My name's Oscar Salazar.
So we spoke at Standing Rock. You're wearing this very comfy-looking, stylish Bernie onesie, and we sent out a message for Bernie to come to Standing Rock. Unfortunately, he didn't come. Talk to me about being here. What do you think in terms of the awareness that's been raised to the issue of Standing Rock and Dakota Access?
Well, right here, we're making sure that people are well known that this bank right here is still funding the Dakota pipeline, and right now they moved it, and we got to make sure that it's stopped completely. And right now, there's going to be Trump coming in January 20th. He can overturn that. And so we got to make sure that we can do everything and let everyone everyone across the world know that the Dakota pipeline needs to be stopped.
And as a Native American, what's striking to me, I was just in Standing Rock for the last couple of weeks, actually, but even though the permit was denied, the government has never actually followed through on their promises to Native Americans. So most people still there. There's still hundreds of people at Osheti-Sokoe camp, 1,000 at Sacred Stone. They don't trust the government. So that was, it was a victory, but they're still fighting. What can you tell viewers about the people still in Standing Rock and why people are still fighting there vigilantly in person, not leaving?
Well, because the winter's not going to hold them back. They're going to make sure that there's going to come with love and prayer, and that's the company that's still funding this They're going to make sure they're going to step over what we say, and we can't let that happen. And so they would rather be fined and not care about the water right now. We got to make sure that they have to care, that we're coming with love, and we're not going to give up.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. Talk for a minute.
All right, hey guys, Jordan is going to find another lovely interview. Right now, we are watching an absolutely awesome concert. Honestly, this is not going to get out of my head for like 3.5 days at the very least, which I think is the purpose. So, exciting stuff here. By the way, we are at 42nd and 3rd, if anyone knows anything about Manhattan. It's by the Chrysler Building, right by the Chrysler Building, and we're on the east side. So if you can get in, you know, it's right by Grand Central. If you're from New York, come on over. And they will also be doing something tomorrow here. And I believe Shailene Woodley and Mark Ruffalo are going to be participating in that action. So that's going to be very exciting stuff. And as someone, here, I'll turn this around. And as someone who has been home and has been disconnected from this particular movement for a while, because Jordan went back to Standing Rock, but I actually stayed. I've been there 3 times, but I wasn't there the most recent time. It's incredibly moving to see that this is still going on. So even though President Obama halted the pipeline and he had, you know, he did the right thing in the end, I like that people are still maintaining this kind of social awareness, because this issue isn't going away. It's actually only going to escalate with Donald Trump in office. And it's the kind of activism and the kind of political engagement and social engagement that Bernie Sanders talked about. So while this issue isn't directly connected to Bernie Sanders' revolution, I very much think it is in the spirit of what he's been discussing. A constant political engagement, a constant social movement, never giving up, never letting the mainstream media tell you what you should and should not say, what you should and should not care about, and defining your own future. And that's a lot of what's happening here. So it's very moving to see that the fight has been taken to New York, and we are in front of Wells Fargo Capitol, where there are a lot of people walking by who basically think we're hooligans. Some people are interested. Some people have been asking for flyers, certainly. So it's spreading the message, but also kind of giving a little screw you to the people who think that this issue is nothing more than some liberal hippies just standing out here bugging everybody. So, so let's turn this thing back around. That says, only when the last tree has been cut down, the last fish has been caught, and the last stream poisoned will we realize we cannot eat money. Like a pretty dope graphic there with the gas mask. And that's our Bernie Sanders' friend. So here we are, Wells Fargo. Look at that image. We are here to protect. Water is life. And then the logo of corporate greed right ahead of us. So, that's part of it. Here we go. Here's Jordan.
So, we good? So we should also say that you know, Standing Rock has been in the spotlight for months. There's the Sable pipeline in Florida, the Trans-Pecos pipeline in Texas that I'm going down on Saturday to cover. This is a pipeline that's going through Texas into Mexico. So, you know, Donald Trump, we're not sending our jobs to Mexico or China, but we'll send all the oil, you know, because the energy independence that they're talking about, why we need these pipelines, supposedly for domestic use, but the pipeline in Texas is going to Mexico and then being exported all over the world to China and all these places. So there's a pipeline that just burst in Pennsylvania a few weeks ago. There's pipelines being built in Massachusetts. I mean, all over the place. I can't tell you, since I've covered Standing Rock, how many messages I'm getting. You need to come cover this pipeline in my community, in this city. Dakota Access Pipelines also going through South Dakota, Iowa, and Illinois. There's a court hearing tomorrow in Des Moines at 8:30 in the morning. If you're from Iowa, it's at the Polk County Courthouse, 8:30 a.m. There's going to be water protectors. You're talking, there's going to be the reunion of the Sierra Club and conservatives who are pissed off about the pipeline in Iowa because their land is being seized by eminent domain. So you have progressives, you have Native Americans, you have conservatives. I mean, you got the whole gamut coming together in opposition to these pipelines. Some on the grounds of Mother Earth and water, some on the grounds of, hey, you can't take my land. This is my land. That's in Texas, where I'm going, it's conservative cowboys who have usually been in the cheering section for oil and gas. Their land is being seized via eminent domain. So this whole pipeline issue, it's not just about the environmental aspect. It's about the corruption. Your politicians in your community, how many Democrats spoke up about the Standing Rock and the police brutality and the oil spills? How many of them do you hear from when it counts? Not after President Obama came out denying the permit. How many did you hear from Elizabeth Warren? Did you hear from Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi? I'm calling out the Democrats because they're supposed to be the party of the people, so they say. The Republicans we know are corrupt. I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't know about the Republicans. They are in the tank for oil and gas. But you didn't hear anything from the Democrats about Dakota Access, about a woman getting her arm nearly shot off, about a Native American woman going blind because of tear gas in her face. You didn't hear a damn word. I doubt you're not hearing much from them about the Sable pipeline in Florida. You know who you are hearing about the Sable pipeline from? People like Tim Canova, who ran against Debbie Wasserman Schultz and fought a great race. He's been out front on the Sable pipeline in Florida that's threatening their aquifer. But you need more. You need more than just Bernie and Tim Canova and even the people out here. Collectively, they need to come together, because the only thing Donald Trump will respond to, the only thing corporate Democrats who are still in bed with Wall Street and big oil are going to respond to, they're going to get a call from their sugar daddies at Wells Fargo, at Citigroup, at Chase Bank, at all these banks. I think there's 17 of them, big banks associated with this pipeline. Once the divestment happens, someone just told me $20 million has already been divested through this campaign. Once the banks get jittery, you know what they're going to do? They're going to call their good old friend Chuck Schumer. They're going to call Nancy Pelosi. They're going to call Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan, and they're going to say, hey, you got to do something about this. We can't handle this. We're losing all our customers. That's how change happens. And it's sad. It's sad that that's how change happens. We need to fix the system. Cenk talks it all about all the time. Wolfpack talks about it. One day we'll fix the system, but until then, you got to work the system, and you got to get these banks to feel the fire under their ass. The only way to do that is protests like this. I mean, this protest, it's thinned out. It started out with 100 people. It's probably a couple dozen now. But there's protests happening all over the country this month. December is the month of action against the Dakota Access Pipeline, so that's actionnetwork.org. You can go watch our videos at youtube.com/TYTpolitics. I think we have over 130 videos Emma and I collectively did from Standing Rock, and me ranting in my kitchen, which I'll be doing again soon. And that's about it. Saturday, look for Sunday. I'll probably be going live from Texas, where I'll be covering that pipeline. And we'll cover how many pipelines we can cover. Now, remember, I did a video on this yesterday. If you're going to talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. Take out your wallet. If you got a couple dollars, a couple shekels, whatever, $10, $20, $30, however much you can donate, because we are crowdfunding through you to keep this reporting going. We want Emma on full time. We want me to get a day off from time to time. We want new reporters. Maybe we'll hire one of you. Who knows? That's tytnetwork.com/go. tytnetwork.com/go. You could donate to TYT Politics, TYT Reporting. It's going to reporting. It's not going to, the buffet table for Cenk, Jimmy, and I. It's going to reporting. tytnetwork.com/go. So go. Do it. We'll come back live if there's anything else to cover. And until then, youtube.com/TYT Politics. Peace.